The champagne flute trembled in Willa Thompson's hand as she spotted Richard Morrison weaving through the crowd, his predatory smile fixed on everyone he passed. And she immediately ducked behind the nearest decorative bookshelf, her emerald gown rustling against the mahogany wood. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she pressed herself into the narrow space between the shelf and the wall, cursing herself for accepting the invitation to this charity gala in the first place. She should have known Richard would be here. He attended every high society event in Manhattan, always looking for his next target, his next victim to charm and manipulate. Willa had made the mistake of dating him 2 years ago, and the 6 months that followed had been a masterclass in psychological warfare disguised as romance. It had taken her another year of therapy to rebuild herself after that relationship ended. Interesting hiding spot, a deep voice said from the other side of the bookshelf. Willa jumped, nearly dropping her champagne. She peered through a gap between 2 leather-bound volumes to see a tall man in an impeccably tailored tuxedo standing on the opposite side, also pressed against the shelf, though he seemed far more composed than she felt. "I'm not hiding," she whispered defensively. "Sure," he replied, his tone laced with amusement. "I'm not either." Despite her anxiety, Willa felt a smile tugging at her lips. She adjusted her position slightly to get a better look at him through the gap. Dark hair, strong jawline, and eyes that held both intelligence and warmth. He was handsome in that effortless way that some men possessed, like he had never tried a day in his life but still managed to look like he stepped off a magazine cover. "Who are you avoiding?" she asked, curiosity overcoming her initial embarrassment. The man was quiet for a moment, then let out a low chuckle. "Richard Morrison. You," Willa felt her breath catch in her throat. "You're joking." "Wish I was. That man has been trying to pitch me some ridiculous investment scheme all night. He cornered me by the canapes, followed me to the bar, and I barely escaped when Senator Williams created a distraction by spilling wine on himself. I think Morrison spotted me again, which is why I'm currently examining the literary selections of the Grandview Hotel with intense interest." Relief and something warmer flooded through Willa's chest. "He's my ex-boyfriend, the worst 6 months of my life. I came tonight to support the Children's Hospital Foundation, but I didn't think about the fact that he'd probably be here too." "Ah, so we're both refugees from the same tyrant." "That's almost poetic. More like tragic," Willa said, but she was smiling now. There was something comforting about sharing this absurd moment with a stranger who understood exactly why she was hiding at what was supposed to be the social event of the season. "I'm Sebastian, by the way." Sebastian Zhao. The name triggered something in Willa's memory. Sebastian Zhao. Why did that sound familiar? Before she could place it, she heard Richard's voice growing louder, closer. "Have you seen Sebastian Zhao?" Richard was saying to someone. "Tall, dark hair, probably the richest man in the room. I have a fantastic opportunity to discuss with him." Sebastian caught Willa's eye through the gap in the books and pressed a finger to his lips. They both fell silent, barely breathing as Richard's footsteps passed within feet of their hiding spot. Willa could smell his cologne, that expensive scent that used to make her feel special when he wore it on their dates, before she realized he wore it for everyone, that nothing about their relationship had been as unique as he'd made her believe. "This is ridiculous," Willa whispered once Richard had moved on. "We're adults hiding behind furniture. The most expensive furniture in Manhattan, if that makes you feel better. This bookshelf is an original piece from the 1920s. It doesn't, but thanks for trying." Sebastian shifted, and suddenly he was rounding the corner of the bookshelf, appearing at her side in the narrow space. Up close, he was even more striking than she'd realized. He had to be well over 6 feet with broad shoulders that filled out his tuxedo jacket perfectly. His eyes were a warm brown that seemed to hold genuine kindness, something Willa had learned not to take for granted. "We can't hide here all night," he said. "Eventually, someone's going to notice the CEO of Zhao Industries cowering behind a bookshelf at his own charity gala." The pieces clicked into place. Sebastian Zhao, CEO of Zhao Industries, the massive pharmaceutical and medical research company that had revolutionized cancer treatments over the past decade. She'd read about him in Forbes, seen his picture in the business section of the Times. He was known for being brilliant, ruthless in business but generous in philanthropy, and notoriously private despite his wealth and influence. "This is your event." Willa felt her cheeks flush with heat. "I'm so sorry. Here you are, hosting this beautiful gala to raise money for the Children's Hospital, and I'm treating it like my personal fortress." "Our personal fortress," Sebastian corrected with a grin that transformed his entire face. "And honestly, this is the most fun I've had at one of these things in years. Usually I just shake hands, give my speech, write a check, and count down the minutes until I can leave. But now I've got a partner in crime." The ballroom beyond their hiding spot swirled with activity. A string quartet played Vivaldi in the corner, and hundreds of Manhattan's elite mingled beneath crystal chandeliers that probably cost more than Willa's annual salary. She worked as a pediatric nurse at the very hospital this gala was supporting, and her ticket had been comped as a thank you from the foundation. She definitely didn't belong in Sebastian Zhao's world. "I should probably just leave," Willa said, though she made no move to do so. There was something magnetic about Sebastian's presence, something that made her want to stay in this ridiculous hiding spot forever. "Or," Sebastian said slowly, "we could make a run for the balcony. There's a private terrace through those doors that nobody knows about except me and the hotel manager. We could wait out Morrison in comfort. That's not a great look for the host to disappear from his own party. I gave my speech during cocktail hour. The donation forms are all distributed. At this point, I'm just decoration. Besides, the foundation director owes me a favor she'll cover." Sebastian held out his hand. "What do you say? Want to escape with me?" Willa knew she should say no. She should thank him politely, slip away through the crowd, and head home to her modest apartment in Queens. Getting involved with someone like Sebastian Zhao, even just sharing a conversation on a balcony, was asking for complications she didn't need in her life. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw something that made her want to take the risk. Maybe it was the way he'd hidden behind a bookshelf just like she had. Maybe it was the warmth in his smile, or the fact that he'd called her his partner in crime without a trace of condescension. Or maybe it was simply that for the first time in 2 years, since Richard had shattered her ability to trust, she felt a genuine spark of connection with someone. "Okay," she said, placing her hand in his. His palm was warm and strong, his grip gentle but confident. "Let's go." They timed their escape perfectly, waiting until the string quartet reached a dramatic crescendo that captured everyone's attention. Then they slipped from behind the bookshelf and wove through the crowd, Sebastian leading the way with practiced ease. He seemed to know exactly where to step, when to pause, how to move through the sea of people without drawing attention. Willa followed in his wake, her hand still clasped in his, feeling slightly drunk though she'd barely touched her champagne. The terrace was exactly as Sebastian had described, a hidden gem that overlooked Central Park. The November air was crisp, but not uncomfortably cold, and tiny lights had been strung along the railing, creating an intimate glow. The sounds of the party faded to a pleasant hum behind the closed French doors. "This is beautiful," Willa breathed, moving to the railing to take in the view. The park stretched out below them, its paths lit by vintage lampposts, and beyond that the city skyline glittered like a promise. "It's my favorite spot in the whole hotel," Sebastian said, coming to stand beside her. "When I'm planning these events and the organizers are driving me crazy with seating charts and menu selections, I come out here to remind myself why I'm doing it." "Why are you doing it?" Sebastian was quiet for a moment, his expression growing serious. "My sister, Sarah, she had leukemia when she was 7. This was 25 years ago and the treatments were brutal. We spent months at the children's hospital watching her fight for her life. She survived, thank God. She's married now with 3 kids and runs the research division at Zhao Industries. But those months in the hospital changed me. I saw what those nurses and doctors did, how they cared for the kids and their families. I saw how much the environment mattered, how a cheerful playroom or a comfortable parent lounge could make a terrible situation slightly more bearable." He turned to face Willa, and the vulnerability in his eyes made her heart squeeze. "So when I made my first million, I donated to that hospital. When I made my first billion, I established a foundation. And now I host these ridiculous galas where people like Richard Morrison try to pitch me investment schemes, because it means kids like Sarah get better care. That's worth hiding behind a bookshelf or two." Willa felt something shift inside her chest, like a door she'd kept locked was slowly opening. "I work there," she said softly, "at the children's hospital. I'm a pediatric nurse in the oncology ward." Sebastian's eyebrows rose. "Seriously, 5 years now." "Before that, I worked at a hospital in Boston, but I moved to New York for—" She trailed off, not wanting to admit it had been for Richard, for the relationship that had turned toxic so quickly. "For someone who didn't deserve you," Sebastian guessed gently. "Something like that." Willa wrapped her arms around herself, not from cold but from the memories. Richard seemed perfect at first, charming, successful, attentive. He worked in finance and had this amazing apartment and took me to all these incredible restaurants, but slowly things changed. He started criticizing little things. My clothes weren't sophisticated enough. I spent too much time at work. I wasn't ambitious enough because I was happy being a nurse instead of going back to school for something that made more money. By the end, I felt like I was constantly apologizing for existing. "He's an idiot," Sebastian said firmly. "And I don't just mean because he let you go. I mean he's genuinely stupid if he couldn't see that being a pediatric oncology nurse is one of the most important jobs in the world. Do you know what it takes to do that work? The skill, the compassion, the strength. My family will never forget the nurses who cared for Sarah. They were angels." Tears pricked at Willa's eyes. She'd heard thank yous from families countless times, but something about hearing it from Sebastian, who understood from personal experience, touched her deeply. "Sorry," she said, brushing at her eyes. "I didn't mean to get emotional. I barely know you, and here I am dumping my relationship baggage on you at your own party." "Our party," Sebastian corrected with a small smile. "We're in this together, remember, partners in crime against Richard Morrison." That made Willa laugh, breaking the tension. "He really has been bothering you all night, relentlessly. He's convinced he has the next big pharmaceutical investment opportunity, something about a miracle supplement that will revolutionize digestive health. When I tried to explain that I run a company focused on cancer research and treatment, not supplements, he just talked louder. The man doesn't take no for an answer." "No, he doesn't," Willa agreed quietly. That had been one of the hardest parts of dating Richard. He'd steamroll over her boundaries, her preferences, her very thoughts, always insisting he knew what was best. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, looking out over the park. A horse-drawn carriage passed below, carrying tourists bundled in blankets. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. The city hummed with life. "Can I ask you something?" Sebastian said eventually. "Sure." "When you're at work, when you're with those kids who are fighting so hard, what keeps you going? It must be incredibly difficult emotionally." Willa considered the question carefully. It was something she'd thought about often over the years, especially during the hard shifts when a child took a turn for the worse or when a family received devastating news. "Hope," she said finally. "Even in the darkest moments, there's always hope. Hope that the next treatment will work, that tomorrow will be a better day, that we're making a difference even if it's just making a scared kid smile for a few minutes. And the kids themselves. They're so brave, so resilient. They remind me every day what really matters in life. Not the big apartment or the fancy restaurants or impressing people at parties, just love and connection and fighting for what's precious." Sebastian was watching her with an intensity that made her skin warm. "You're remarkable, Willa Thompson. How do you know my last name? I never told you." A slight flush colored Sebastian's cheeks. "Your name tag from the hospital, it's pinned to your clutch." Willa glanced down and realized her badge was indeed clipped to her small evening bag. She laughed. "So much for mystery and intrigue." "I don't need mystery. I'd much rather have honesty." Sebastian moved slightly closer, and Willa could smell his cologne, something subtle and expensive but not overwhelming like Richard's had been. "Can I be honest with you about something, please? I haven't enjoyed talking to someone this much in longer than I can remember." Usually at these events, people want something from me. Money, connections, business deals. They see Sebastian Zhao, CEO and billionaire, not just Sebastian who likes old movies and terrible puns and hiding behind bookshelves. But with you, right now, I feel like I can just be myself. Willa's heart was racing. "I know what you mean. After Richard, I've been so guarded with people. I stopped dating completely. I threw myself into work and told myself I was better off alone. But right now, talking to you, I'm remembering that not everyone is like him. That maybe I closed myself off too much. How long has it been since you and Richard ended?" 2 years. He texts me sometimes, trying to meet up to talk. I never respond. I had to block his number eventually, but he'll use different phones. It's like he can't accept that I actually left him. He's so used to being in control that my rejection genuinely confuses him." Sebastian's jaw tightened. "That's harassment. You know that, right? You could file a restraining order." "I know. I've thought about it. But getting lawyers involved, going to court, seemed like letting him take up even more space in my life. I just want to move on." "That's fair. Everyone heals differently." Sebastian paused, seeming to wrestle with something. "Can I tell you something else?" "Yes. I'd really like to see you again. Not at a gala or a charity event. Just us, maybe dinner. I know we just met, and we met in the strangest possible way, but I feel something here. You feel it too." Willa's first instinct was to say no, to protect herself, to retreat back behind the walls she'd built so carefully. But looking into Sebastian's eyes, seeing the genuine vulnerability there, she realized she did feel it. The connection was real, and denying it would be denying something potentially beautiful out of fear. "I feel it," she admitted. "But I need you to understand something. I'm not interested in games or manipulation or someone who's going to try to change me. I'm happy with my life the way it is. My job is demanding and doesn't pay much. I live in Queens in a rent-controlled apartment with a roommate, and I'm not sophisticated or polished or any of the things that people in your world probably expect." "Good," Sebastian said simply. "Because I'm not interested in sophisticated or polished. I'm interested in real. And you, Willa, are the most real person I've met in years. Before Willa could respond, the French doors burst open and a woman in a stunning red gown appeared, her expression frantic. "There you are," she exclaimed, rushing over to Sebastian. "I've been looking everywhere. We have a situation. Richard Morrison is making a scene. He's had too much to drink and he's cornering guests, getting aggressive about his investment pitch. Security is about to escort him out, but I wanted to check with you first since technically he's a guest." Sebastian's expression hardened. "Where is he now?" "By the bar, harassing the Hendersons." "Tell security to remove him. Be polite but firm. If he resists, call the police. I don't care who his family is or what connections he claims to have. I won't have guests harassed at an event I'm hosting." The woman nodded and hurried back inside. Sebastian turned to Willa with an apologetic expression. "I should probably go handle this. I'm sorry." "No, don't be sorry. This is your event. I'm just glad I don't have to worry about running into him anymore tonight." But even as Willa said it, she felt a flutter of anxiety. Drunk Richard was unpredictable Richard. She'd seen him in that state before, and it never ended well. Sebastian seemed to read her thoughts. "Come with me. Stay close. I promise you'll be safe." They returned to the ballroom together, and Willa immediately spotted Richard by the bar, his face flushed and his movements erratic as he gestured wildly at an elderly couple who looked deeply uncomfortable. Two security guards were approaching him cautiously. "Mr. Morrison," one of the guards said in a calm, professional tone, "we need to ask you to leave." "Leave? Are you kidding me? Do you know who I am? I'm talking to the Hendersons about a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and you're interrupting us." "It's quite all right," Mr. Henderson said quickly. "We were actually just leaving ourselves. Long day, you understand." The couple made their escape, and Richard's attention swung around the room wildly until it landed on Sebastian. His eyes lit up with recognition and something uglier. "Zhao." "Finally. I've been trying to talk to you all night. These amateurs don't understand the magnitude of what I'm offering, but you will. You're smart. You built an empire. You'll see the potential in—" He stopped abruptly when he noticed Willa standing next to Sebastian. His expression went through several rapid changes: surprise, confusion, and then anger. "Willa, what are you doing here, and why are you with him?" "I don't owe you an explanation, Richard," Willa said, proud that her voice came out steady despite her racing heart. "We're not together anymore. Who I spend time with is none of your business." "None of my business. I've been trying to reach you for months. The least you could do is return my calls. We had something special, and you just threw it away because you were too immature to handle a real relationship." Sebastian stepped slightly in front of Willa, a subtle but clear protective gesture. "Mr. Morrison, you've been asked to leave. Please do so or the police will be called." "Oh, I see what this is," Richard said, his words slurring slightly. "You think you can steal my girlfriend just because you're rich. Willa's not impressed by money. She's a simple girl. She wouldn't even know what to do in your world." "Ex-girlfriend," Willa corrected sharply, anger overriding her anxiety. "And you're right, I'm not impressed by money. But I am impressed by kindness, respect, and treating people like they matter. Things you never learned." Richard's face darkened. He took a step toward them, and suddenly Sebastian was fully between them, his posture radiating a quiet strength that made Richard pause. "That's enough," Sebastian said, his voice low and controlled but carrying unmistakable authority. "You're drunk. You're making a scene and you're harassing guests, including a woman who's made it clear she wants nothing to do with you. Security will escort you out now. If you contact Willa again in any way, we'll pursue legal action for harassment. Am I clear? You can't threaten me. My family. Your family doesn't scare me. I have more lawyers than you have connections. Test me if you want, but I promise you won't like the results." The security guards moved in, taking Richard firmly by the arms. He struggled briefly, still sputtering protests, but they were professional and efficient. Within moments, they'd guided him out of the ballroom, and the heavy doors closed behind them with a decisive thud. The room had fallen silent during the confrontation, hundreds of eyes watching the drama unfold. Now the quartet resumed playing, and conversation slowly started up again, though Willa could feel the curious glances still directed their way. "I'm so sorry," she said to Sebastian, mortified. "I brought that drama to your event. This is exactly why I tried to hide behind the bookshelf in the first place." Sebastian took her hand, squeezing gently. "You have nothing to apologize for. He's the one who acted like an ass. And honestly, I've been wanting to kick him out all night. You just gave me the perfect excuse." Despite everything, Willa felt herself smile. "My therapist would call that reframing. Smart therapist. Is it working?" "A little." The woman in the red dress approached again, her expression apologetic. "Sebastian, I'm so sorry about that. We should have caught it earlier before it escalated." "It's fine, Diane. These things happen. Just make sure he's banned from future events." Sebastian glanced at Willa, then back at Diane. "Actually, would you mind taking over host duties for the rest of the evening? I think I'd like to get some air." Diane's eyes flickered between them with understanding. "Of course. Everything's under control here anyway. Go." Sebastian led Willa back through the crowd, but this time, instead of heading to the terrace, they went straight to the elevator. As the doors closed behind them, shutting out the party noise, Willa let out a long breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Somewhere we can actually talk without worrying about Richard Morrison or charity obligations or anything else." "If that's okay with you." "More than okay." They rode down to the lobby in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Sebastian still held her hand, his thumb tracing small circles on her palm in a gesture that was simultaneously soothing and electrifying. When they emerged onto the street, the cold November air hit Willa's bare shoulders and she shivered. Immediately, Sebastian shrugged out of his tuxedo jacket and draped it around her shoulders. The gesture was so classic, so movie-perfect, that Willa almost laughed. But the jacket was warm from his body heat and smelled like him, and she found herself pulling it tighter around herself. "There's a diner around the corner," Sebastian said. "Best coffee in Manhattan, and they make a chocolate cream pie that will change your life. Interested?" "A diner." "Not some five-star restaurant. I told you, I'm more interested in real than sophisticated. Besides, I've had enough canapés and champagne to last a lifetime. I want pie." They walked the 2 blocks to the diner, which was a classic New York establishment with red vinyl booths, checkered floors, and a long counter with spinning stools. At nearly 11 at night, it was populated mostly by cab drivers, night shift workers, and a few couples who looked like they were either starting or ending dates. The hostess did a double take when she saw Sebastian in his tuxedo and Willa in her emerald gown, but she recovered quickly and led them to a corner booth. They slid in across from each other, and a waitress appeared moments later with menus and coffee. "What can I get you too?" "A nice dress, honey. Special occasion, charity gala," Willa explained. "But we escaped for pie." "Smart choice. The gala food is never as good as they pretend it is. I'll give you a minute with the menus." Once she was gone, Sebastian leaned back against the booth and grinned. "This is so much better than the party. You don't have to pretend. I know this isn't what someone like you is used to. Someone like me. You know what I mean. Billionaire CEO. You probably have private chefs and Michelin-starred restaurants on speed dial." Sebastian's expression grew serious. "Willa, I need you to understand something. Yes, I have money, more money than any person realistically needs, but I grew up middle class in San Francisco. My parents were both teachers. When Sarah got sick, we almost lost our house because of medical bills, even with insurance. I built Zhao Industries from the ground up, and I've never forgotten where I came from or what matters. Money is just a tool. It's what you do with it and who you surround yourself with that defines you. I'm sorry. That was judgmental of me. No, it's fair. People make assumptions about wealth, just like people make assumptions about nurses or teachers or any profession. We're all guilty of it. I'm just asking you to get to know me as Sebastian, not as Sebastian Zhao, the CEO. Can you do that? Willa met his eyes and saw nothing but sincerity there. Yes, I can do that. They ordered pie chocolate cream for Sebastian and key lime for Willa, and ended up talking until after 2 in the morning. They covered everything. Sebastian's journey building his company, starting in a tiny lab with his college roommate, and working 18-hour days for years before their first breakthrough in targeted cancer therapy. Willa's path to nursing, inspired by a grandmother who'd been an army nurse in Vietnam. Their favorite books, movies, childhood memories. Sebastian's story about accidentally setting the high school chemistry lab on fire during an experiment gone wrong had Willa laughing so hard she nearly cried. Her tale of the time she'd mistaken a hospital board member for a patient and tried to take his vitals while he was touring the facility had Sebastian wiping tears from his eyes. "I can't believe you took his blood pressure," Sebastian gasped between laughs. He was wearing a visitor badge. How was I supposed to know he was the chairman of the board? What did he say? He was actually incredibly nice about it. He said it showed the staff was attentive and proactive. I still wanted to die of embarrassment, though. The waitress refilled their coffee for the 3rd time, smiling at them like they were the most entertaining customers she'd had all night. Other patrons came and went, but Willa barely noticed. She was completely absorbed in Sebastian, in the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, in the deep rumble of his laugh, in the thoughtful way he considered her questions before answering. "Tell me about your family," Willa said eventually. "Besides Sarah, you mentioned your parents were teachers." "They still are, actually. Semi-retired now, but they both do substitute teaching and tutoring. They live in the same house I grew up in, refuse to let me buy them anything bigger. My mom says she'd just have more rooms to clean." Sebastian's expression was fond. "They're the most grounded people I know. When Zhao Industries went public and I made my first billion, my dad's response was to ask if I was still happy. Not congratulations on the money, just concern about my happiness." "That's beautiful. What did you tell him?" Sebastian's smile faded slightly. "Honestly, I wasn't sure. Building the company had been all-consuming. I didn't have time for relationships or hobbies or much of anything beyond work. I was successful but lonely. It took me a while to find balance, and I'm still not sure I've got it right." "What does balance look like for you now?" "I've stepped back from day-to-day operations. I have an incredible team running things, and I focus on big-picture strategy and the foundation work. I go to the gym regularly. I've reconnected with old friends, and I'm trying to have an actual personal life. The challenge is that dating when you're publicly wealthy is complicated. People either want something from you or they're intimidated by you. Finding someone who sees past all of that feels nearly impossible." He looked at Willa with such openness that her breath caught. "Until tonight," he added softly, "Sebastian." Willa didn't know what to say. The rational part of her brain was screaming warnings about moving too fast, about the complications of dating someone from a completely different world, but her heart was singing a different tune entirely. "Too much?" Sebastian asked. "I'm coming on too strong, aren't I?" "I swear I'm not usually like this. There's just something about you, Willa. I feel like I've been waiting to find you." "No, it's not too much. I feel it too, I'm just scared. After Richard, I promised myself I'd be more careful. And you and we're from such different worlds. What if this feeling is just the excitement of the moment? What if when reality sets in, we realize we don't actually fit?" Sebastian reached across the table and took her hand. "What if we do fit? What if this is the start of something amazing? We won't know unless we try. And I promise you, Willa, I'm not Richard Morrison. I won't try to change you or make you feel less than. I want to know you, the real you, exactly as you are." The waitress appeared with the check, breaking the moment. Sebastian pulled out his wallet, but Willa stopped him. "Let me split it with you." "Absolutely not, Sebastian, it's just pie and coffee." "I don't care if it's just water. When I ask a woman out, I pay. Old-fashioned maybe, but that's how I was raised. This was a date." Sebastian's smile was slow and devastating. "Wasn't it?" Willa felt warmth spread through her chest. "I guess it was." They left the diner and walked slowly back toward the hotel. The streets were quiet at this hour, just the occasional taxi passing and the distant sound of music from late-night bars. The city felt like it belonged to them alone. "Where do you live?" Sebastian asked. "Queens, Astoria. I should probably catch the subway before it gets any later." "Let me drive you. My car is in the hotel garage." "You don't have to do that." "I know I don't have to. I want to. Please let me make sure you get home safely." Willa considered arguing but found she didn't want to. The night was too perfect to end on the subway. "Okay, thank you." Sebastian's car turned out to be a sleek black sedan, expensive but not ostentatious. He opened the door for her, another old-fashioned gesture that made Willa's heart flutter. As they drove through the quiet streets toward Queens, she gave him directions while they continued to talk. "What's your schedule like this week?" Sebastian asked as they crossed the Queensboro Bridge. "I work 3 12-hour shifts, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday." "What about Monday?" "Can I take you to dinner?" An actual planned date this time, not just an impromptu escape from a terrible person and a charity gala. Willa hesitated for only a moment before answering. "I'd like that." "Perfect. Give me your number and I'll call you tomorrow to work out details." They exchanged numbers, and Willa directed him to her building, a modest pre-war walk-up on a tree-lined street. The neighborhood was quiet and safe, nothing fancy but comfortable. Sebastian pulled up to the curb and turned off the engine. "Thank you for tonight," Willa said. It was unexpected and strange and somehow perfect. "Thank you for hiding behind that bookshelf. Best decision I made all night was following your example." They looked at each other, and the air between them felt charged with possibility. Willa knew she should get out of the car, go inside, take things slow. But slow seemed impossible when every cell in her body was pulling her toward Sebastian. He moved first, leaning across the console to cup her face gently in his hand. His palm was warm against her cheek, his touch feather-light as if he was afraid she might bolt. Willa leaned into the touch, and Sebastian took it as the invitation it was. The kiss was soft at first, questioning. But when Willa responded, threading her fingers through his hair and pulling him closer, it deepened into something that made her forget the world existed. Sebastian kissed like he did everything else, with confidence and attention and genuine emotion. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Willa felt dizzy. "I should go inside," she whispered. "You should," Sebastian agreed, but neither of them moved. They kissed again, and this time it was Willa who had to pull away before things got too heated in the front seat of his car like teenagers. "Monday," she said firmly. "We'll continue this Monday." "Monday," Sebastian agreed. "I'll pick you up at 7. Perfect." Willa reluctantly left the car and walked to her building's entrance. She turned to wave, and Sebastian was still there, watching to make sure she got inside safely. She climbed the 3 flights to her apartment, still wearing his tuxedo jacket and feeling like she was floating. Her roommate Jenna was up watching late-night television when Willa entered. She took one look at Willa's expression and grinned. "Oh my God, what happened to you? You look completely dazed." Willa sank onto the couch, still clutching Sebastian's jacket. "I met someone at the gala." "Tell me everything." So Willa did, the whole ridiculous story tumbling out. Hiding behind the bookshelf, discovering Sebastian was hiding from Richard too, the terrace conversation, Richard's scene, the diner, the kiss. By the end, Jenna was staring at her with wide eyes. Wait, Sebastian Zhao. The billionaire. The guy who was on the cover of Forbes last month, I guess. I haven't read Forbes recently. Jenna grabbed her phone and pulled up an article, showing Willa the screen. There was Sebastian's photo, looking polished and professional in a gray suit, with the headline "Pharmaceutical Giant Sebastian Zhao on Innovation, Philanthropy, and the Future of Cancer Treatment." "That's him," Willa confirmed, her stomach doing a little flip at seeing his picture. "Willa, do you understand how insane this is? You're going on a date with one of the richest men in America." "I'm going on a date with Sebastian. The money doesn't matter." Jenna gave her a look. "The money always matters. Not in a bad way, but you have to be realistic. His life is completely different from ours. Private jets and galas and, I don't know, yacht parties or whatever billionaires do. He took me to a diner for pie. Okay, that's actually adorable, but still, this is a big deal." Willa knew Jenna was right, but she didn't want to think about the complications right now. She just wanted to hold onto the feeling of Sebastian's kiss, the warmth in his eyes, the connection that had felt so real and immediate. "I know it's complicated," Willa admitted. "But Jenna, I really like him. Really like him in a way I haven't felt since before Richard. Maybe not even then. What if this could be something special?" Jenna's expression softened. "Then you should absolutely go for it. You deserve someone amazing after what Richard put you through. Just be careful, okay? Protect your heart." "I will, I promise." Willa went to bed but barely slept, her mind replaying every moment of the evening. When her phone buzzed the next morning with a text from an unknown number, her heart leaped. "Good morning. I hope you slept well. Last night was incredible. Still on for Monday. P.S. This is Sebastian, in case that wasn't obvious." Willa smiled and typed back. "Good morning. Yes, definitely still on for Monday. Last night was pretty incredible from my perspective too." The response came almost immediately. "Perfect. Fair warning, I'm a terrible texter. I'm much better in person, but I wanted you to know I'm thinking about you." They texted on and off throughout Sunday. Nothing deep, just little messages that made Willa smile. Sebastian sent her a photo of his sister Sarah with her kids, all of them making silly faces at the camera. Willa sent back a picture of her at the hospital cafeteria with some coworkers, everyone in their scrubs holding up coffee cups in a mock toast. Monday arrived both too slowly and too quickly. Willa changed outfits 3 times before settling on a deep burgundy dress that Jenna assured her was perfect. Nice enough for a fancy restaurant, but not trying too hard. She left her hair down in loose waves and kept her makeup simple. Sebastian arrived exactly at 7, and when Willa opened the door, her breath caught. He was wearing dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that somehow made his eyes even warmer. He looked less polished than he had at the gala, more relaxed, and Willa loved it. "You look beautiful," he said, handing her a small bouquet of peonies. "These reminded me of you, classic and lovely but with their own unique style." Willa buried her nose in the flowers to hide her blush. "Thank you, they're perfect. Let me just put them in water." Jenna appeared from her bedroom to intercept the flowers. "I've got it. You two go have fun. Sebastian, nice to meet you. Take care of our girl." "I absolutely will," Sebastian promised seriously. They took the elevator down, and Willa expected to see his sedan waiting. Instead, Sebastian led her to a different vehicle, a vintage convertible beautifully restored in deep blue. "This is yours?" Willa asked, running her hand along the smooth paint. "My one indulgence. I bought it when I made my first 10 million and had it completely restored. It's a 1967 Mustang. I take it out whenever the weather's nice enough. It's November. But it's not raining or snowing, so I'm calling that nice enough. Do you mind? We can take the other car if you're cold." "Are you kidding? This is amazing." They drove to a small Italian restaurant in Brooklyn, the kind of place that didn't take reservations and had a line out the door. But when Sebastian gave his name to the hostess, she immediately led them to a corner table. "You called ahead," Willa observed. "I may have made a generous donation to their children's scholarship fund in exchange for a table. They give scholarships to kids from the neighborhood who want to go to culinary school. Seemed like a good cause." Willa shook her head, smiling. "Do you always use your money for good?" "I try." "What's the point of having it otherwise?" The food was incredible. Homemade pasta and fresh bread and wine that Sebastian explained was from a small vineyard in Tuscany, owned by the restaurant owner's cousin. They talked more easily than ever, the conversation flowing naturally from topic to topic. "Tell me about a patient who made an impact on you," Sebastian said over the main course. "If you're comfortable sharing, I mean. I don't want to pry into confidential things." Willa thought for a moment. "There was a girl named Emma. She was 8 years old and had osteosarcoma, bone cancer. She went through multiple surgeries, aggressive chemo, the works. It was brutal, but she had this spirit that just wouldn't quit. She'd draw pictures for all the nurses, make up elaborate stories about the hospital being a castle, and we were all knights protecting the kingdom from the dragon of cancer. She turned something horrible into a game of pretend. Is she okay now?" "She is. She's been in remission for 2 years. Her mom sends me Christmas cards every year with Emma's picture. Last year she was playing soccer. This incredible, vibrant kid who might not have made it without the treatments your company helped develop." Sebastian's eyes were suspiciously bright. "That's why I do what I do. Every Emma out there who gets a chance at life because of better treatments and research, it makes everything worth it. Your sister is lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. She's the one doing the real work now, running the research division. She's brilliant, much smarter than me. I just had the business sense to commercialize what we were developing. That's not just anything. You changed an entire industry." They lingered over dessert, neither wanting the night to end. Eventually, the restaurant started closing up around them, and they reluctantly headed back to the car. Instead of driving straight to Willa's apartment, Sebastian took a detour along the waterfront, parking at a spot that offered a stunning view of the Manhattan skyline across the river. "I used to come here when I first moved to New York," Sebastian said. "When the company was still small and every day felt like a gamble. I'd sit here and look at the city and remind myself why I was doing this. All those buildings full of people, some of them sick, some of them scared. If I could help even a fraction of them, it would all be worth it." Willa reached over and took his hand. "You've helped more than a fraction. You've changed everything." Sebastian turned to face her, and the streetlights cast shadows across his face, highlighting the strong lines of his jaw and the intensity in his eyes. "Willa, I need to tell you something. I know we've only known each other a few days. I know this is all moving fast. But I can't stop thinking about you. When I'm in meetings, I'm wondering what you're doing. When I'm reading reports, I'm remembering things you said. I haven't felt this way in years, maybe ever." Willa's heart was hammering. "I feel the same way. It's terrifying." "Why terrifying?" Because this could be something real, something that matters, and I could get hurt. We could hurt each other. We could, Sebastian agreed, or we could be amazing together. We could build something incredible. Willa, I know my life is complicated. The money, the media attention, the constant demands on my time. I'm not going to pretend dating me is easy. But I promise you this. I will always be honest with you. I will always respect you. I will never try to change who you are or make you feel like you're not enough. You are more than enough. You're extraordinary. Tears pricked at Willa's eyes. After Richard's constant criticism, after 2 years of believing she wasn't worthy of genuine love, hearing Sebastian's words felt like balm on an old wound. I want to try, she whispered. I'm scared, but I want to try. Sebastian cupped her face in his hands, his touch gentle. We'll figure it out together. One day at a time. No pressure, no expectations beyond being honest with each other. Deal, deal. They kissed in the front seat of the vintage Mustang, and it felt like sealing a promise. When Sebastian finally drove Willa home, it was after midnight, and she felt drunk on happiness despite not having had more than a glass of wine with dinner. When can I see you again? Sebastian asked as they stood outside her building. I work the next 3 days. 12-hour shifts. What about Thursday night? Or is that too soon? Thursday is perfect. They kissed goodnight and Willa floated up to her apartment. Jenna was already asleep, so Willa got ready for bed quietly, her mind replaying every moment of the evening. She fell asleep with a smile on her face and dreamed of convertibles and city lights and Sebastian's warm brown eyes. The next 3 days at the hospital were long and exhausting. Willa worked in the pediatric oncology ward, caring for children at various stages of treatment. There was Marcus, a 6-year-old with leukemia who was responding well to treatment and making everyone laugh with his dinosaur impressions. There was Lily, a teenager with lymphoma who was struggling with hair loss and trying to maintain some sense of normalcy while undergoing chemo. There was Thomas, a 10-year-old whose family had just received the devastating news that his cancer had returned. These shifts were why Willa had become a nurse, but they were also what made the job so emotionally demanding. She held hands and administered medications, and explained procedures in age-appropriate language and comforted parents, who were barely holding themselves together. She celebrated small victories and grieved difficult setbacks, and tried to maintain the professional boundaries that kept her from completely falling apart. During her lunch break on Wednesday, Willa checked her phone and found several texts from Sebastian. Photos of his day, a cup of coffee with a ridiculous amount of foam art, a view from his office window, a hilarious meme about pharmaceutical research that only someone in the industry would understand. Each message was accompanied by a few words about his day, his meetings, his thoughts. Thinking about you, read the most recent text. Hope your shift is going okay. Remember you're making a difference. Willa smiled and texted back. Needed to hear that today. Thank you. Her coworker Rachel noticed the smile. Okay, you've been glowing for 3 days now. Who is he? Willa hesitated, then decided there was no point in being coy. Sebastian Zhao. We met at the charity gala on Saturday. Rachel's jaw dropped. The Sebastian Zhao, the one who donated $10 million to build the new research wing, I guess. I'm still getting used to the whole billionaire thing. Willa, that's incredible. What's he like? He's kind and funny and thoughtful. He makes me feel seen in a way I haven't felt in a long time. And the money thing is just this weird bonus fact about him, you know. Like if I'd met him and he was a teacher or an accountant, I'd still be falling for him. Falling for him. Already, Willa bit her lip. Is that crazy? Rachel's expression softened. Honey, after what you went through with Richard, you deserve crazy, wonderful happiness. If Sebastian Zhao makes you feel that way, go for it. Thursday arrived, and Willa was simultaneously excited and nervous about seeing Sebastian again. They'd texted constantly over the past few days, but there was something different about being in person, about the physical reality of their connection. Sebastian picked her up at 6, earlier than usual. He was wearing jeans and a leather jacket, looking more casual than she'd seen him yet. "I hope you don't mind, but I planned something a little different tonight," he said. "No fancy restaurant. I thought we could do something more fun." "What kind of fun? You'll see. Do you trust me?" Willa looked into his eyes and realized she did, completely. "Yes." They drove to an arcade in Manhattan, one of those trendy places that served craft cocktails alongside vintage video games and pinball machines. Willa burst out laughing when she realized where they were. "This is perfect," she said. "I haven't been to an arcade in years. I remembered you saying you used to play video games with your brothers growing up. I thought this might be nostalgic." They spent the next 2 hours being completely ridiculous, competing at skee-ball and racing games and a particularly intense round of air hockey that Willa won by 2 points. Sebastian was competitive but gracious in defeat, and watching him throw his head back and laugh when she beat him at a dance rhythm game made Willa's heart swell. "You have hidden talents," Sebastian said, slightly out of breath from trying to match her dance moves. "I have many secrets. You'll just have to keep discovering them." They cashed in their tickets for ridiculous prizes: a plastic ring that turned Sebastian's finger green and a stuffed unicorn that Willa immediately named Bernard. Over drinks at the arcade bar, Sebastian grew more serious. "Can I ask you something personal, always? When you think about your future, what do you see? Not the specifics necessarily, but the shape of it. What makes you happy?" Willa considered the question carefully. "I see myself still working with kids. Maybe I'll move into education eventually, training new nurses or developing better pediatric care protocols. I see a family someday if I'm lucky enough to find the right person. A home full of warmth and laughter and love. Nothing fancy, just real and meaningful. What about you, honestly?" For a long time, I didn't let myself think about personal futures. It was all about the company, the research, the next breakthrough. But lately, especially since meeting you, I've started imagining something different, someone to share everything with. Building a life together, not just a business empire. Kids, if we're blessed with them. Creating something that matters beyond pharmaceuticals and profit margins. That sounds beautiful. It does, doesn't it? Sebastian reached across the table and took her hand. "Willa, I know it's only been a week. I know I should probably play it cooler, take things slower. But I'm not interested in games or pretending to feel less than I do. I'm falling for you. Hard and fast and completely." Willa felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm falling for you too. It's terrifying and amazing, and I keep waiting for something to go wrong because it feels too good to be true. What if nothing goes wrong? What if we're just lucky enough to have found each other? Then I guess we don't waste it." They kissed right there in the arcade bar, with the sounds of video games and laughter surrounding them, and Willa had never felt more certain of anything in her life. The following weeks unfolded like a dream. Willa and Sebastian fell into a rhythm around her shift work and his business demands. He'd pick her up after long days at the hospital and take her for late dinners or midnight walks through the city. She'd come to his penthouse apartment, an admittedly stunning space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, and they'd cook together or watch movies or just talk for hours. Sebastian introduced Willa to his sister Sarah and her family over brunch one Sunday. Sarah was warm and welcoming, immediately pulling Willa into conversation about the hospital and patient care. Her 3 kids were delightful chaos, running around the restaurant while Sarah tried to maintain some semblance of order. "I like her," Sarah whispered to Sebastian while Willa was helping the youngest child retrieve a dropped crayon. "She's real. Don't screw this up." "I'm trying not to," Sebastian replied seriously. Willa introduced Sebastian to Jenna and her friend group over drinks. The evening started awkwardly. Everyone clearly intimidated by Sebastian's wealth and status, but he won them over by being genuinely interested in their lives and stories. He asked Jenna about her work as a graphic designer, engaged in an animated discussion about typography, and picked up the tab without making a big deal about it. "Okay, I approve," Jenna told Willa later. "He's actually wonderful, and the way he looks at you. Girl, that man is gone for you." The only shadow over their happiness was the occasional text from Richard. Despite Willa blocking multiple numbers, he'd find new ways to contact her, always with the same message. They should talk, he'd changed. She was overreacting to their problems. Willa deleted each message without responding, but they left her unsettled. "You should really consider a restraining order," Sebastian said after Richard somehow got Willa's work email and sent a lengthy message about how he'd been working on himself and wanted another chance. "I know. I'm just worried about escalating things." "Willa, he's already escalating things by continuing to contact you against your wishes. Let me have my lawyer send him a cease and desist letter. No court involved, just a formal warning that continued contact will result in legal action." Willa agreed, and within days, Sebastian's attorney had sent the letter. For a blissful few weeks, Richard went silent, and Willa allowed herself to hope he'd finally given up. November turned into December, and the city transformed into a winter wonderland of lights and decorations. Sebastian took Willa ice skating at Rockefeller Center, holding her hand as they glided around the rink beneath the enormous Christmas tree. They visited holiday markets in Union Square and Brooklyn, drinking hot chocolate and buying handmade ornaments. Sebastian was surprisingly good at picking out gifts for Sarah's kids, and Willa loved watching him interact with them, patient and playful in equal measure. "You're good with children," Willa observed after a particularly chaotic afternoon of helping Sarah wrap presents, while the kids helped by creating more chaos. "I've had practice with these three," Sebastian said, gesturing to his nephews and niece. "But I want my own someday. A whole house full of chaos and love and noise." "That sounds perfect." They were spending more and more time at Sebastian's apartment, which had started to feel like a second home to Willa. She kept a toothbrush in the bathroom and spare clothes in the closet. Sebastian cleared out drawer space for her things without being asked. It felt natural and right, this gradual intertwining of their lives. One evening in mid-December, Sebastian made dinner for Willa at his place. He'd insisted on cooking alone, banishing her to the living room with a glass of wine and instructions not to peek. When he finally called her to the table, she found an impressive spread: perfectly cooked steak, roasted vegetables, and a salad with homemade dressing. "This is amazing," Willa said after the first bite. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" "YouTube, mostly. And trial and error. When you work as many late nights as I did building the company, you either learn to cook or you live on takeout forever. I chose option 1. They ate slowly, savoring both the food and the conversation. Sebastian told her about a breakthrough his research team had made that day, a potential new treatment protocol that could be revolutionary for certain pediatric cancers. Willa listened, fascinated, occasionally asking questions that Sebastian answered with enthusiasm. "You really love what you do," Willa observed. "I do. But I'm learning to love other things more, or equally at least. Work used to be everything. Now it's just one part of a fuller life." He reached across the table and took her hand. "A life that includes you." After dinner, they moved to the couch, and Sebastian pulled Willa against his side, her head resting on his shoulder. The windows showed the park covered in a light dusting of snow, the lights from the city reflecting off the white surface. "Willa," Sebastian said softly, "I need to tell you something." Her stomach clenched with anxiety. "Okay, I love you. I'm in love with you. I know it's only been 6 weeks, and maybe I should wait longer to say it, but I don't want to wait. I don't want to play games or pretend to feel less than I do. You've changed my entire life. Every day with you is better than the day before. I love your compassion and your strength and your laugh and the way you care about your patients. I love how you're not impressed by my money, but you're proud of what the company does for people. I love falling asleep next to you and waking up with you. I just love you, completely and entirely." Tears were streaming down Willa's face. "I love you too. God, Sebastian, I love you so much it scares me. I didn't think I'd ever feel this way about anyone. After Richard, I thought I was broken, but you showed me I wasn't. You showed me what real love feels like." Sebastian pulled her into a kiss that was tender and passionate and full of promise. When they broke apart, both breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. "Move in with me," he whispered. Willa pulled back slightly to look at him. "What? Move in with me?" "I know it's fast, but you're here most nights anyway. I want to wake up with you every morning. I want to come home to you after long days. I want us to build a life together, really together." "Sebastian, I can't afford half the rent on a place like this. I can't even afford a fraction of it." "I'm not asking you to pay rent. This is my home and I want it to be yours too. Please say yes." Willa's mind raced. It was fast, maybe too fast. But when she looked into Sebastian's eyes and felt the absolute certainty of her love for him, the timing didn't seem to matter. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I'll move in with you." The kiss that followed was electric, and they ended up making love right there on the couch, the city lights twinkling beyond the windows like witnesses to their happiness. Moving in together was easier than Willa expected. She didn't have much beyond clothes and books, and a few pieces of art, and Sebastian made space for all of it, seeming to genuinely enjoy incorporating her things into his minimalist modern decor. "See, now it actually feels like a home," he said, as Willa arranged her collection of mismatched mugs in the kitchen cabinet. "Before it was just a showroom." Jenna was supportive but made Willa promise to keep her room available for another month, just in case. "Not that I think anything will go wrong," she clarified, "but you're allowed to be cautious." "I appreciate it," Willa said, "but I don't think I'll need it. This feels right, Jenna. Really right." Christmas approached and Willa worried about what to get Sebastian. "What did you buy for a billionaire who could have anything?" She finally settled on something personal, a leather journal filled with her handwritten notes. On each page, she'd written something she loved about him, a memory from their time together or a hope for their future. It had taken her weeks to complete, stealing quiet moments at work or late at night when Sebastian was already asleep. Sebastian's gift to Willa was similarly thoughtful. He'd established a scholarship fund in her name at the nursing school she'd attended, ensuring 10 students per year would receive full tuition to pursue pediatric nursing careers. "Sebastian, this is too much," Willa said through tears when he showed her the foundation documents on Christmas morning. "It's not enough. You inspire me every day with your dedication to those kids. This way, you'll inspire generations of nurses who'll care for countless children. Your impact just multiplied exponentially." They spent Christmas with Sebastian's family in San Francisco, and Willa fell in love with his parents immediately. His mother was warm and funny, constantly teasing Sebastian about various childhood mishaps. His father was quieter but deeply kind. And the way he looked at his wife after 40 years of marriage made Willa's heart ache with hope that she and Sebastian could have that same enduring love. "He's different since he met you," Sarah told Willa over coffee while the men took the kids to the park. "Lighter. He used to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders. Now he seems to remember that life is supposed to include joy, not just responsibility." "He makes me different too," Willa admitted. "Braver, more willing to take risks and trust in happiness." New Year's Eve found them back in New York, attending another gala, though this one was thrown by a friend of Sebastian's and was far more relaxed than the charity event where they'd met. At midnight, surrounded by celebratory chaos, Sebastian pulled Willa close and kissed her as fireworks exploded over the city. "Last New Year's I was alone in my office, working," Sebastian murmured against her lips. "This year I have everything I've ever wanted. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Thank you for finding me behind that bookshelf." January brought new challenges. A reporter from a gossip website somehow got photos of Willa and Sebastian together and published a story speculating about the mysterious nurse who captured the billionaire's heart. Suddenly, Willa found herself the subject of internet speculation and gossip. Some comments were kind, but others were cruel, calling her a gold digger or suggesting she wasn't pretty enough or sophisticated enough for someone like Sebastian. "Ignore them," Sebastian said firmly when he found Willa reading comments one evening, tears streaming down her face. "They don't know you, they don't know us. Their opinions mean nothing. But they're saying such awful things. That I'm only with you for money, that you'll get bored of me once the novelty wears off, that I'm not good enough for your world." Sebastian gently took the phone from her hands and set it aside. Then he cupped her face and made her look at him. "Willa Thompson, you are the best thing that has ever happened to me. You are brilliant and compassionate and strong. You save children's lives for a living while I sit in boardrooms and make deals. If anything, I'm not good enough for you. And anyone who can't see that is an idiot whose opinion doesn't matter. I'm not used to this kind of attention. Everyone looking at me, judging me. I know, and I'm sorry. This is one of the downsides of my public profile, but we can set boundaries. I'll have my PR team release a statement asking for privacy. We don't have to attend public events if you don't want to. Your comfort and happiness matter more than any social obligation." Willa took a shaky breath. "No, I won't let them chase me into hiding. I'm proud to be with you, and I'm not ashamed of what we have. I'll just need to develop a thicker skin. That's my girl." They developed strategies for dealing with media attention. Sebastian's PR team did indeed release a statement about respecting their privacy. Willa made her social media accounts private and stopped reading comments about herself online. And slowly, as no new scandals emerged and they didn't provide any gossip-worthy content, the attention faded to a manageable background hum. February brought Valentine's Day, and Sebastian surprised Willa by taking a week off work, something he apparently never did. He'd planned a trip to a private island in the Caribbean, just the two of them and a small staff who were discreet to the point of invisibility. A week off. Willa teased as they lounged on a pristine white sand beach, the ocean stretching endlessly before them. "Won't the company collapse without you? Turns out I'm not as indispensable as I thought. Who knew?" Sebastian reached over to take her hand, threading their fingers together. "Besides, Sarah's got everything under control. And I realized something recently. I don't want to look back on my life and realize I missed it because I was always working. I want memories with you, adventures and quiet moments and everything in between." They spent the week swimming and reading and making love and talking about everything and nothing. On their last night, they had dinner on the beach, a table set up right on the sand with candles flickering in the gentle breeze. "Willa, Sebastian said as dessert was served. "There's something I want to ask you." He stood up from the table and Willa's heart began to race. When he dropped to one knee in the sand, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket, she gasped. "I know we've only known each other 6 months. I know some people will say it's too fast. But I've never been more certain of anything in my life. You are my best friend, my partner, my home. You make me want to be better every single day. Willa Thompson, will you marry me?" He opened the box to reveal a stunning ring, an emerald-cut diamond that caught the candlelight and threw rainbows across the sand. But Willa barely saw it because her vision was blurred with tears. "Yes," she sobbed. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." Sebastian slid the ring onto her finger and then stood, pulling her into his arms and spinning her around as she laughed through her tears. The staff, watching from a discreet distance, applauded quietly before melting away to give them privacy. "I can't believe this is my life," Willa said, staring at the ring on her finger in wonder. 6 months ago I was hiding behind a bookshelf to avoid my ex-boyfriend. Now I'm engaged to the most amazing man I've ever met." "Best bookshelf I ever hid behind," Sebastian said with a grin. Then his expression grew more serious. "I want to spend my life making you happy, Willa, building a home with you, a family, growing old together, all of it." "That sounds perfect." They were married 3 months later in a small ceremony in Central Park, surrounded only by close family and friends. Willa wore a simple but elegant gown, and Sebastian looked devastatingly handsome in a classic black tuxedo. Sarah stood as Willa's maid of honor, and Sebastian's business partner and closest friend James served as his best man. As they exchanged vows under a flowering cherry tree, Willa thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. All the pain of her relationship with Richard had been worth it because it had made her appreciate Sebastian's genuine love. All the years of hard work and dedication to her nursing career had prepared her to understand the value of what Sebastian was building with his company. Every choice, every heartbreak, every triumph had led her here. "I promise to love you in sickness and health, in success and failure, in ordinary moments and extraordinary ones," Sebastian said, his voice thick with emotion. "I promise to be your partner, your champion, your home. I promise to build a life with you that's full of love and laughter and meaning. This is my vow to you today and always." Willa's own vows were equally heartfelt. "I promise to stand beside you, to support your dreams while chasing my own. I promise to be honest and kind and patient. I promise to remind you to take breaks and enjoy life, and to let you remind me of the same. I promise to love you with everything I am, today and for all our tomorrows." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Sebastian's kiss was tender and joyful, and the small gathering erupted in applause. Willa had never felt happier or more certain of her choices. The reception was held at a charming restaurant in the village, with incredible food and heartfelt toasts, and dancing that lasted late into the night. Sebastian's father toasted to finding love that transforms you, and Sarah gave a speech about watching her brother finally find the happiness he deserved. "To Willa," Sarah said, raising her glass, "who took my workaholic brother and taught him how to live. We're all grateful." Willa's own parents, flown in from Boston, were initially overwhelmed by Sebastian's wealth and status, but he won them over completely by asking detailed questions about their lives and treating them with genuine warmth and respect. "You chose well," Willa's mother whispered to her during a quiet moment. "That man adores you." For their honeymoon, Sebastian surprised Willa with a trip to Italy. They spent 2 weeks wandering through Rome and Florence and Venice, eating incredible food and visiting museums and getting wonderfully lost in winding streets. They were just two people in love, anonymous in a foreign country, free from the weight of expectation or public scrutiny. "We should do this every year," Willa said as they shared gelato in a tiny piazza in Rome, watching the sunset paint the ancient buildings gold. "Just disappear together and remember what matters." "Agreed," Sebastian said. "Put it in the marriage contract." When they returned to New York, they settled into married life with surprising ease. Willa continued working at the hospital, though she'd begun developing a training program for new pediatric oncology nurses with the support of Sebastian's foundation. Sebastian stepped even further back from day-to-day operations at Zhao Industries, focusing on strategic direction and spending more time at home. They established routines: Sunday morning breakfast in bed with the newspapers spread around them, Tuesday date nights that were sacred no matter what else was happening, Saturday afternoons helping Sarah wrangle her energetic kids. Their apartment filled with life and laughter and love. 1 year into their marriage, Willa discovered she was pregnant. She took the test in the bathroom at the hospital during a break, her hands shaking as the positive result appeared. When she got home that night, she found Sebastian in his study, reviewing research proposals. "Hey," she said softly, leaning against the doorframe. "Got a minute, always?" He looked up and immediately noticed something in her expression. "What's wrong? Did something happen at work?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right." Willa crossed to him and took his hand, placing it over her still flat stomach. "We're having a baby." Sebastian's face went through a series of rapid emotions: confusion, understanding, shock, and finally pure joy. "A baby! We're having a baby! We're having a baby!" He stood and pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could feel his heart racing against her chest. When he pulled back, there were tears in his eyes. "I didn't think I could be happier than I was," he said. "But I was wrong. Willa, we're going to be parents. I know." "Are you ready for this? With you? I'm ready for anything." The pregnancy was smooth and joyful. Sebastian attended every doctor's appointment, read every book on parenting he could find, and turned one of the spare bedrooms into a nursery with an enthusiasm that made Willa laugh and cry in equal measure. They didn't find out the baby's sex, preferring to be surprised. Willa worked until she was 7 months pregnant, finally taking leave when chasing after energetic children all day became too exhausting. She spent those last months nesting, preparing their home for the new arrival, and soaking up quiet time with Sebastian before their lives changed forever. Their daughter arrived on a sunny morning in August, after a long but manageable labor. Sebastian was there through all of it, holding Willa's hand and whispering encouragement and crying when the baby finally emerged, screaming and perfect. "She's beautiful," Sebastian said in wonder, watching as the nurses cleaned and weighed their daughter. "She's absolutely perfect." They named her Elena Sarah Zhao, Elena after Willa's grandmother and Sarah after Sebastian's sister. From the moment they brought her home, Elena became the center of their universe. She was a good baby, content to be held and nursed and sung to sleep. Watching Sebastian with Elena made Willa fall in love with him all over again. He was a natural father, patient and attentive and completely devoted. He'd take conference calls while Elena slept against his chest in a carrier. He'd wake up for midnight feedings and diaper changes without complaint. He'd spend hours just watching her sleep, amazed that they'd created this tiny perfect person. "I never knew I could love anyone this much," Sebastian confessed one night as they stood over Elena's crib, watching her tiny chest rise and fall. "You and her, you're everything." "My whole world is right here in this apartment." "Our whole world," Willa corrected, taking his hand. "We built this together." 2 years later, their son arrived, another healthy baby they named William after Willa's father. With 2 children under 3, life became beautifully chaotic. The apartment was constantly covered in toys and books, and the detritus of family life. Willa and Sebastian navigated sleepless nights and toddler tantrums, and the overwhelming love that came with parenthood. Willa eventually transitioned to part-time nursing and took on more work developing educational programs for the hospital. Sebastian continued his gradual retirement from active management, though he remained on the board of Zhao Industries and was deeply involved in the foundation's work. They bought a weekend house in the Hamptons where they could escape with the kids, a cozy place by the beach where William learned to walk, and Alina developed a passion for collecting seashells. The house filled with memories, sandcastle building and bedtime stories and lazy Sunday mornings with pancakes and chaos. One evening, 5 years into their marriage, Willa and Sebastian managed to steal an hour alone while Sarah watched the kids. They walked through Central Park hand in hand, retracing the path to the spot where they'd gotten married. "You ever think about that night at the gala?" Willa asked, "when we were both hiding behind that bookshelf, all the time?" "Best decision I ever made, following your lead and hiding from Richard Morrison. He got married, did you know that? Jenna saw the announcement in the Times. Good. Maybe he'll finally leave you alone." Richard had eventually stopped contacting Willa after Sebastian's lawyers made it very clear that continued harassment would result in serious legal consequences. Willa occasionally wondered if she should feel vindictive satisfaction about that, but mostly she just felt grateful that chapter of her life was completely closed. "I was so scared that night," Willa admitted. "Scared of Richard, scared of putting myself out there again, scared of getting hurt. If someone had told me that the man hiding on the other side of that bookshelf would become my husband and the father of my children, I wouldn't have believed them." "I would have," Sebastian said. "I mean, I didn't know it consciously, but something in me recognized you immediately. Like my soul knew yours. That's incredibly cheesy, but true. You're stuck with me forever, Willa Zhao. You and me and our chaotic, wonderful life. I wouldn't want it any other way." They kissed under the cherry trees, older and wiser but no less in love than they'd been on their wedding day. Around them, the park teemed with life. Joggers and dog walkers and other couples stealing moments together. The city hummed with its endless energy, full of millions of stories unfolding simultaneously. But in that moment, Willa and Sebastian were the only 2 people in the world, just as they'd been that night behind the bookshelf, finding each other in the midst of chaos and fear. They'd built something beautiful from that strange beginning, a love that had weathered challenges and grown stronger with each passing day. As they walked home hand in hand, Willa thought about all the children she'd cared for over the years, all the families she'd supported through their darkest moments. She thought about Alina and William waiting at home, probably driving Sarah crazy with their boundless energy. She thought about Sebastian beside her, her partner in everything, her love, her home. 5 years ago she'd been hiding behind a bookshelf, afraid and hurt and convinced she'd never find real love. Now she had everything she'd ever dreamed of and more. Life had a funny way of surprising you when you least expected it, of bringing perfect moments out of chaos, of creating love stories from the strangest beginnings. "What are you thinking about?" Sebastian asked, squeezing her hand. "How lucky I am. How grateful I am for that terrible gala and that stupid bookshelf and Richard Morrison being such an insufferable person that we both needed to hide from him." Sebastian laughed, the sound warm and familiar and beloved. "Should we thank him? Send him a card? Thanks for being awful. You inadvertently gave us the greatest love story." I think we'll skip the card, but maybe we should keep a bookshelf in the house, for sentimental reasons. We have 6 bookshelves. Then we're set. They arrived home to find Sarah surrounded by the controlled chaos of bath time, both kids soaking wet and giggling as bubbles floated through the air. Eleanor spotted them first and shrieked with delight, racing over in her soggy pajamas to throw her arms around Willa's legs. "Mama, Daddy." "We made a bubble mountain." William toddled over, not quite as steady on his feet but equally enthusiastic. Sebastian scooped him up, tickling his belly until the boys' laughter filled the apartment. This was everything, Willa thought as she gathered Eleanor into her arms. This messy, chaotic, perfectly imperfect life they'd built together. All because of a bookshelf and a charity gala and 2 people who'd been brave enough to take a chance on love. "Thank you for an amazing 5 years," Sebastian said that night after the kids were finally asleep and they'd collapsed into bed, exhausted but content. "Thank you for every day," Willa replied, curling into his side. "Here's to 50 more years just like this. Deal? You, me, the kids, and whatever other adventures life has in store." Willa fell asleep in her husband's arms, surrounded by love, grateful for every moment that had led her here. From the girl hiding behind a bookshelf in an emerald dress to the woman who'd found her home, her purpose, her everything. Life was strange and wonderful and full of unexpected blessings. And it had all started with a shared hiding spot, and the realization that sometimes the right person finds you exactly when you need them most, even if you're both just trying to avoid the same terrible man at a charity gala in Manhattan. Sometimes love sneaks up on you when you're least expecting it, when you're hiding and afraid and convinced you'll never trust again. Sometimes all it takes is one perfect stranger on the other side of a bookshelf, ready to change your whole world.